Cyrus, pleasure to meet you, and really appreciate you taking the time today to sit down together as part of our Strategy Unscripted series.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Fantastic opportunity for us to chat and to dig into your career, your background, your work at GlobalData, but also your thoughts, your foresight, your opinion on the industry moving forward. So to begin with, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick introduction on yourself and your background and your role here at GlobalData.
Sure. So I'm Cyrus, I'm head of strategic intelligence at GlobalData. I came here 6 years ago in 2018 when I sold my business, CM Research, which was a thematic investment research business to GlobalData. And my background before that was I started my career in PwC. I qualified as a chartered accountant, and then I moved into strategy consulting, mainly for the tech sector. Then I moved to investment banking, to Nomura, where I was an equity research analyst covering the tech sector. And then I decided that most Wall Street analysts and City of London analysts they weren't very good at picking stocks. So I left, I started my own company, and I devised my own way of picking winners and losers on the stock market, which was a thematic approach. I scored companies based on how well they were in the big themes impacting their business. And then in 2017, Bloomberg ranked me the number one analyst in over 30 tech stocks. And at that point, I sold my business to GlobalData because I needed the backing of a big company, I think, because my fear was that they would copy this methodology.
So it's very, very impressive to begin with, very impressive and very storied, but also quite a winding background.
Yeah. Oh, and in between, I wrote a novel called City of Thieves because I felt this was. I wrote the novel in 2002 because I felt there were unethical practices in the investment banking world, and I didn't want any part of it. And when I sent it to publishers, I sent it to all the big publishers. They said, "Look, we love the sex and violence, but this nonsense about banks being unethical, we just don't get it. It's not credible. It's not credible." And then the 2008 crisis happened, and I had 4 offers within days.
every cloud is a silver lining, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, and especially with your writing background as well, what are your big passions for the industries that you've worked in and the spaces that you've worked within as well?
Yeah, so I like strategy is an evolving thing. Strategies change over time, and I wanted to develop a way. Originally this product that I developed, the Thematic Scorecard, thematic scoring methodology, it wasn't necessarily for strategy. It was for picking stocks. Mm-hmm. But when we came to GlobalData, Mike Danson's idea, and he had a vision for this product, which is to supercharge it with loads and loads of data sets. Millions and millions of data sets, from patent trends to job trends to deal trends, all tagged to companies and themes, and thereby give predictive signals that would help companies in strategy. So for example, I don't know, if I'm a car supplier, and let's say I'm a tier 1 auto parts supplier, and I want to supply the leading autonomous vehicle companies in the car sector. Well, how do you know who's leading? I mean, we know Tesla's good, but what about, there's hundreds of players.
What does leading mean?
What does leading mean? But of course, if you know over the last, how many patents Mercedes has versus BMW, how many jobs they've hired in autonomous driving in the last 30 days, Mercedes versus BMW, how many deals they've done, strategic partnerships, VC deals, and so on. You add up all those data sets, and you've got a pretty good idea of who's likely to be good in the next couple of years in any theme.
So let's bring it back to basics before we dive into the details.
Yeah.
I work in business strategy. As you, I've been trained as a strategy consultant, and the word I hear more than anything is strategy.
Yeah.
But it's often very fluffy. What does strategy mean to you in your role?
So this concept of strategy being fluffy, because I worked at PwC strategy consulting too, and I agree with you that a lot of people write thematic reports or strategic reports on a big theme like AI, and you can read 500 pages and you can say, okay, so what? Just chuck it in the bin. So we developed a different approach at GlobalData Strategic Intelligence, which was we quantified what it meant for thousands of companies. And we now cover 600,000 companies, and we quantify the impact of the big strategic issues. And we divide strategic issues into 4 key pillars. So technology themes like artificial intelligence, macro themes like geopolitics or ESG or regulation, industry-specific themes like, say, fintech or health tech or whatever it is for a specific industry, plant-based diets in the consumer sector, and innovation.
And from what I've seen on my side and our side as Strategy in Action, of course, working closely with GlobalData, the purpose of strategy and the purpose of that work has to be to deliver the so what. It has to be to arm you, to equip you, to give you the facts, the knowledge, the expertise to drive decision making.
Yeah.
How do you then support the rest of that process? How do you work with an organization to give them all that ammunition they need to go and make strategic decisions?
So what we do is we cover all the strategic issues that any business would need. Since our analysts, we have over 1,000 analysts, they cover 20 different sectors. We cover all the sectors they could possibly deal with. And then because we have data sets, hundreds of millions of data sets tagged to themes, we've got predictive signals that can tell them what their competitors are doing and therefore enable them to rank themselves against their competitors. But the key thing we do is we sum up the thousands of reports we write, what our 1,000 analysts say, what our hundreds of millions of data sets say. We sum it all up in one sheet of paper, which is called the Thematic Scorecard for your industry. So we can rank your company against your competitors on the top 10 themes driving the future of your industry in the next 5 years.
And there's a lot of similarities in terms of strategy and action, which is where we try to, as much as possible, summarize insights, summarize decisions in one page.
Yeah.
Because if you can't explain it in one page, often it's too complex. What are the critical pain points, and we were discussing this just before we started filming, but what are the critical pain points of the organizations, the individuals, the teams that you serve? What are you ultimately solving for them?
So ultimately, you can use our thematic research in many ways. The obvious way is strategy. So, and I'll just give you two examples just from this week. So Intel lost its CEO. They fired its CEO, Pat Gelsinger. And the reason they fired him is because Intel for 20 years had missed all the major themes they could possibly miss. They missed the mobile phone, right? Right when the mobile phone was taking off. They missed AI, they missed gaming. And as a result now, they were the world's biggest chip maker. Now they're worth less than 100 billion, and NVIDIA is worth over 3 trillion. So they've kind of lost their way, and other people who have invested in NVIDIA's invested in all those themes I just mentioned, and they've risen. So that's what we're trying to do. VW, another example. Just today, it's launched. A few weeks ago they said they're shutting down 3 factories. Today they launched a profit warning. Again, they missed the big themes in their industry like electric vehicles, autonomous driving, and ESG.
So with that being said, is a key part of what you do arm and equip organizations, individuals to understand or better understand potential futures and take decisions based upon that?
Yeah, I think the key thing we do is we help companies understand the wider world and how they can be impacted by Trump's election victory, by by what's happening in Syria, perhaps. What are the implications for supply chain? What could happen if something happens, if there's a conflict in Taiwan? So, and what's going to happen with AI? The number one theme today is artificial intelligence. It's impacting our business, it's impacting every business, and we help companies with their AI strategy.
And on the topic of fast-moving industries, of catching the wave and not being swept away by it instead, how have you seen the space in which you play differ from, you said you entered the global data world in 2018. How have you seen it change in the past 6-7 years?
Oh, it's changed phenomenally in the past 6-7 years. So firstly, there's much more data now. So if I compared the data we've got now with just in 2018, it's probably 30 or 40 times or more the data we've got. And then of course you've got AI. It's completely transforming my life as an analyst, and the 1,000 analysts we've got, and we've hired over 200 software engineers to handle all that data in that time. So it's completely changed from data and from the way we use data.
Let's start with the data piece and then we'll move on to AI. As you said, there's a huge proliferation of data available now. It's increasing exponentially, which is fantastic, and it presents fantastic opportunities, but also challenges for yourself as an analyst and also for organizations. What are some of the key challenges that you see it throwing up? The fact that there is just so much data available and it can be hard to filter and sift through it to understand what you really need.
Well, I think with generative AI, that the biggest challenge is that it's not accurate. Maybe it's 80 to 85% accurate at the moment. So if we as an analyst firm use technologies like Gen AI, we might actually be giving the wrong information to clients. So that's the biggest challenge, and fixing that challenge is going to take time and effort.
And interested in your opinion on one specific point. So I and this is a shameless plug, but there we go. I wrote an article last week related to the huge increase in big data and also the use of AI through organizations. And actually that I believe that will drive the more human elements of business to business interaction, human to human interaction, because there's so much more of a reliance on data, a reliance on tech, a reliance on AI, but ultimately you still need people to drive an organization. You still need business leaders to evoke that sense of belonging and ownership in a strategy. Is that something that you see, or am I misplaced?
Absolutely. I mean, data out equals data in, and the reason we keep our analysts and we pay them a decent amount is because they need to analyze that data. And right now, at some point AI will be good enough, but right now it's nowhere near good enough for us to rely on it.
And as someone who's entrenched and unbelievably well versed in this particular space, where do you see it going? Because it's changing so quickly. I mean, AI is changing the way that I do things in a professional capacity and a personal capacity, even in the past 6 months. So where do you see it going in the short term to the longer term?
Well, we've just published our Technology Predictions 2025 report. The number one theme is AI, but there are other themes like cybersecurity, US-China trade wars, quantum computing, and other stuff. But in AI, to answer your question, the number one catalyst in 2025 is small language models. And by small language models, we mean generative AI models with, say, 10 billion parameters that compares to large language models, which might have 3 or 4 trillion. And the big difference with small models is you can train them on specific data sets to do a specific task. For example, we could put all our reports in a small language model, and we could ask it queries, and it would come something out just using those reports. And the advantage is it's much smaller, therefore it's cheaper, therefore you don't need necessarily to go to big tech to build them. Because at the moment, a lot of companies are saying, right, this whole generative AI thing's come out, let's make some cost savings or some efficiency savings using it, but they don't know what to do. And when they've decided what to do and they do an investment case, they say, oh wow, this is going to be expensive using Microsoft or Google. But with small language models, that whole return on investment changes. And there's also lower risk. There's less copyright risk because you know what you're putting in. You're not using the whole internet. There's less cybersecurity risk because actually you can take it offline, you can put it on premise, and so on. So we see a massive rise in companies building their own AI systems using small language models.
And to focus back in on yourself, and this is a question that I like to ask everyone that I sit down with, in your role as a leader within this organization, what are the big challenges that keep you up at night? The big, as we like to say, the 3 a.m. stare at the ceiling challenges. You don't need to be too specific, but broadly speaking, are they related to AI? Are they related to how quickly the industry is moving?
Yeah.
What keeps you staring at the ceiling?
That's a very good question. So the number one challenge as a data analytics firm and a research firm is a cyber attack. So our business is data. If our data gets attacked, we're in trouble. So we spend a lot of money and a lot of time making sure that our data is secure. The number two thing that keeps me awake at night is what is AI going to do to my team, to my own job, and what are our competitors doing on AI? And to that end, we have a vision which is to gradually move to more automated research, but to keep an eye on the quality at all times. So we're watching and seeing what's out there. We're slowly building our AI systems, but we're not running before we can walk.
And how challenging is it, considering that your own business is moving very, very quickly and changing? How challenging is it to keep up with the pace of change for the organizations that you serve? Because you serve correct me if I'm wrong, but a wide range of industries, and each of those industries and organizations have very different challenges. So how difficult is it for you to be able to serve them effectively and specifically with regards to what they need?
Actually, it's very easy because I've got 1,000 analysts covering 20 different industries, and they're experts in technology, they're experts in healthcare, in consumer, in oil and gas, and they monitor what's going on in their industries. And when we all get together and write strategic intelligence, it works.
Okay, and just to move towards the last couple of questions, from where you're very busy, of course, if we were to extrapolate your position out 10 years, so we're, let's say, 2035, considering we're now nearly in 2025, and I came to visit you in 2035 and I said, Cyrus, I'm writing a case study, a report on the fantastic success of your organization over the last 10 years, the award-winning scale and growth that you've achieved. How would you have gone about it in those 10 years between 2025 and 2035? How would you have achieved it? What are the opportunities that you would have maximized?
Wow. Well, firstly, I would do what we're doing now, which is to investigate all the use cases for artificial intelligence in our own business. How do we use it to give clients a better search facility, or how do we get? So we've built an AI hub at the moment. It's in beta phase. You can ask any question you want, like tell me how AI can be used in the construction industry. And it'll give you a whole bunch of use case and referenced work and so on. And it's in beta phase, which means it's not perfect. So, but we will develop that. So how do clients use AI? How do our own analysts use AI to be more efficient and to write better reports? And then how do we use it internally? Can we automate bits of our payroll system or our finance systems or whatever? So in those three areas, that's where I expect a lot of activity.
Okay. And you've spoken a couple of times about the 1,000 analysts, the individuals, the teams that you have within the organization that ultimately you're leading. How do you, as a business leader within this particular space, within GlobalData, how do you ensure that those people are bought into the strategy, are bought into the direction, the vision that you just described, and that they're all pulling in the same direction, they feel ownership of it?
Well, that's the job for our CEO, Mike Danson. So I lead one of the teams, Strategic Intelligence, but we are heavily integrated. So GlobalData's core product is market intelligence. We do market data, market shares, market forecasts in over 20 industries. And those same industry analysts feed into the industry themes section pillar of Strategic Intelligence. So I guess they indirectly work for Strategic Intelligence. But, I think we have a good vision, we have good leadership, and I think we're going to take our people with us, and we're going to deal with the changes as they hit us. Okay,
fantastic. And then just lastly, is there anything that we should look out for in 2025? You've spoken about some of the advancements and some of the areas that you're beginning to test. Is there anything particular that you're most looking forward to in the next year?
Small language models.
Okay.
So we can build AI in-house and not rely on big tech.
Perfect. Well, look, thank you very much for the time. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all of your insight and your expertise and your wisdom on this space and others. And I'll be sure to check out the novel as well. And I'm sure we'll be speaking further soon.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Cheers.